from Russia. So I don't know where they would come from. I believe, my personal opinion, from other planets.
I'm looking, I'm going to try and get on above top secret here in just a second. I think there's been a few people that are trying to load it in as we speak, so I can't quite get to it, but I hope I can find it. Let's get international line. Troy is in Calgary, Alberta, for Paul Stonehill on Coast to Coast AM.
Hey, Ian, I was just going to ask Paul whether or not, what type of definitive evidence he has for UFOs.
Definitive, right.
Definitive to me is this. A deep interest on the part of the Soviet armed forces in the problem or the issue of UFOs and the amount of money and energy spent to study them. And we still don't, of course, we don't know the end results of what they had found out. There's a lot of information nowadays, they're trying to cover up, but apparently they did find something. And the interest of be it CIA or Soviet armed forces in governmental structures that are responsible to protect their population. That, to me, is the most definitive, fact.
Okay. Just interest. I mean, there's no other physical evidence that you've heard about coming either through Russia or through the Chinese or anything else that you believe is out there.
I believe this, based on my research. My deep conviction is this. They found something, they meaning the Soviets. They have found something during their excavations. And they found remnants of an ancient advanced civilization, whether ET or something similar. I would say ET. I believe they're holding it, and only some information has been leaked out. They may not know what they have. Now it would be Russia that has it. And I'm sure they keep, other governments informed about it. But obviously they have something in their hands.
Okay. Let's get to Deborah in Milwaukee on Coast to Coast AM east of the Rockies for Paul Stonehill. Deborah?
Hi, Ian. Hi, Mr. Stonehill. I have a question concerning, perhaps 20 minutes ago you mentioned in Kazakhstan, the lake. Are you referring to the saltwater Lake Belkash there?
Baikal.
Pardon me?
No, I talked about Baikal. We talked about two lakes. We talked about Baikal in Siberia and Issyk-Kul in Central Asia.
Oh, I thought you mentioned Kazakhstan.
No.
Well, that was where the Lake Issyk-Kul was.
In Kyrgyzstan. There are other lakes. There is another lake, and a formation that was created because of the earthquake activity. And there's also in Central Asia. There's quite a lot of activity of UFOs coming in and out. Now, what happens if that lake, if the dam holding it breaks, billions, I would say, gallons of water will go down on Afghanistan and all other countries below, a few others. It will be a catastrophe. And Soviets who had been spying after American SDI program had noticed, because they had equipment, craft coming in and out from the lake, disc-like gigantic objects. That's a very interesting proposition as well. But that goes back to 1980s. That's, again, I think this supports my idea that they, whoever they are here to either prevent disasters or to study them.
West of the Rockies, Lynn is in San Francisco on Coast to Coast AM for Paul Stonehill. Lynn?
Yes. Hello. I just came in about less than an hour ago, so I didn't hear this crystal skull part. But my jaw was dropping when he was talking about Hitler looking for, all these kind of ancient paranormal things and looking into these, because while I was on hold, I actually found the magazine. It's a Conscious Living magazine from July 2004. There's an article in here where someone named Michael Sala, is wondering if the reason for the intervention in Iraq was to look for stargates. And after I had read this, sure enough, oh my gosh, here's Bush in Ur. Bush goes to Ur, which rang a bell because Jim Mars had talked about the Nazis finding the Ark of the Covenant in Ur and moving it to the south of France, or was it the other way around? And then Bush goes to Varanasi in India, which is supposed to be the oldest continuously used city in the world. And I'm like, why in the world would Bush go to these ancient cities that, I mean, especially Varanasi, but also Ur? Do you think there's some Stargate thing there or a portal thing? Or, I mean, something is really odd there. Varanasi is not the capital of India. It's a religious capital.
Paul?
Well, first of all, I would never compare President Bush to lowlife like Hitler. That's number one. Number two, Gorbachev went to Monchegorsk. Monchegorsk contained a shuttle-like object that the Soviets allegedly had in their hands that came from nowhere and disappeared to nowhere. And it was a shuttle-like object, most likely a UFO that was in their hands for a short period of time, and that was back in 1987. So, you could draw parallels. I don't think that if Bush wanted to study about ancient civilizations and possible connections, he would go there. I do hope that during the war in Iraq, the U.S. would send an archaeological protective team to definitely protect ancient Sumerian artifacts and structures. But that's all I can say.
Okay. Interesting thoughts, though. Let me get to Garrett in Hartford, Connecticut on Coast to Coast AM for Paul Stonehill. Garrett?
Hi, how are you? Hello?
Great.
Hello,
yes.
Hi, actually, I just have something to say here about the skull.
Which one?
The crystal skulls.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Being Sunday morning, I'm reading my Bible here, and I'm in Matthew 27, and verse 33. It says, they came to a place called Golgotha, and in parentheses in my NIV Bible, it says, which means the place of the skull.
Right.
So I just thought that was very interesting. I wanted to point that out, maybe.
Well, let me flesh that out for you a little bit, if you'll pardon the pun.
Yeah, sure.
That's one of the reasons why researchers say this whole skull thing probably started in the post-Columbian Catholic Mexico, where they sort of incorporated the new religious beliefs with some ancient kind of imagery that they used to have, a little bit similar to how the Mexicans still celebrate a festival of the dead. That the Golgotha theme, the skull theme, apparently pops up in a couple of places where skulls are pictured underneath crosses. And there'd be a cross and a crucifix, actually, so an image of Jesus on a cross in a skull. And so that was the base of the crucifix would be the skull, and that represented Golgotha. So that may account for why the whole skull conversation started amongst researchers of antiquities.
That's interesting.
I also want to mention not the skulls themselves, but the material they're made from, rock crystal. Get away from Western culture. Let's think of China, a great nation that has tremendous ancient history that we don't know very little about. Based on my research, I find it incredible. Did you know that in ancient China, they had an artifact that let their doctors look into the insides of a human body and see disease? It was made from rock crystal. And this information comes from Russia. My source it was the great Ivan Yefremov, who knew so much. I published an article about him in Fate magazine, and I wish I could write more. This was a person of encyclopedic knowledge who knew a lot and about India and China that very few people here do know about, and I wish we would know more here in the West.
Okay.
It's not only South America and North America. There is a whole world of incredible information and knowledge.
Yeah, I know there is. Thank you for being here to help explain it, too. Wildcard line, Joe is in Westerville, Ohio, for Paul Stonehill. Joe?
Yes, I had a question and then a quick comment for you guys. My comment is, when you're talking about the extraterrestrials being observers, I'd like to refer to Stargate SG-1 with the Ancients, Ascended Beings. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that series or not, but the Ancients are... they were human-like beings that ascended to a higher power, basically, where they didn't require bodies anymore. They were pure energy, and all they did was observe